But just kind of a reminder, because I know a lot has happened in the past couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, I made a statement that is from a man named Michael Gorman, who is one of my favorite New Testament theologians. That Michael Gorman said that John chapter 1, verse 33, he calls this the mission statement of John's gospel. So just as a reminder for you to see that, chapter 1, verse 33 says to us, I didn't know him. This is John the Baptist speaking. I didn't know him, but he who sent me to baptize with water told me, the one you see the Spirit descending and resting on, he is the one who baptizes with the Holy Spirit. And I talked about that passage 2 weeks ago, and then I made a statement after this of kind of pulling this together of what it is to be a disciple. And the statement I made a couple weeks ago was, to be a disciple is to be a child of God. And children of God are people who are Spirit-immersed participants in Jesus' Spirit-immersed mission. So that's where we ended 2 weeks ago. That passage was followed by the text that Pastor James preached from last week, where we see the calling of some of the first disciples in this gospel. This passage has some incredibly powerful statements. Statements that we hear of what are you looking for, Jesus' statement to the disciples of follow me, Philip's statement of come and see. And there's just these powerful statements. But then at the end of that passage, verse 50, and John's already read it for us once today, but I want you to hear it as many times as we can today. Verse 1, verse 50 kind of serves as a bridge from chapter 1 into what we're going to be looking at today with chapter 2. And Jesus responded to him, do you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? And here's the line. You will see greater things than this. Now, I hope for some of us, we ask the question of what greater things? What are the greater things that are coming? What are the greater things that we're going to see? Well, my response to that is, I'm glad you asked, because chapter 2 brings us into the first of one of those greater things. So chapter 2, we're going to start there. Verse 1 says, on the third day, a wedding took place in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Now, a couple things about this. One, there's a lot of people that are going to kind of pull this passage, pull it into the Passion story, to pull it into the stories that happened between Palm Sunday and Maundy Thursday and Good Friday and Easter. The third day is something that should kind of ring in our ears. There's other pieces of this passage. The next verse we're going to see about Jesus' mother that will remind us that she was there present at the crucifixion. We're going to talk about wine that's going to remind us of Maundy Thursday. So there's a lot of things here that are going to kind of pull us into that. And I think that's okay, but I think there's something else we want to see here that I want you to kind of focus on. I'm going to ask, we're going to see how this works, if Tyler and Chelsea would come down. Maverick is a game time decision. We'll see if, I did tell them I'm going to ask them to come down, but they have no idea what we're about to do. So they're probably a little nervous. Slide that back. Are y'all nervous? Yeah. I told them they don't have to say anything, but I just asked a question. So actually, I do have another question, so I don't. All right, y'all come down here. All right, Chelsea, I want you here. Let Tyler go by. Tyler, I want you on the other side. All right. Chelsea, oh, look at this. Okay, here's my question. Do y'all remember standing here?
Yes.
What were we doing on a Thursday night? How many years ago?
Almost 7.
Almost 7 years ago. What did we do on a Thursday night 7 years ago right here?
Got married.
You got married right here on a Thursday night. All right. These are some of the words that I read on that night. All right. And then y'all have heard me read these words, but I want y'all to hear them again in this context. All right. All right. Y'all ready? This is going to feel a little awkward because it's like we're doing a wedding. All right. Dear friends, we are gathered here. It's just as awkward as it was 7 years ago to have to look up to Tyler. So Dear friends, we are gathered here in the sight of God, in the presence of these witnesses, to join together this man and woman in God's holy matrimony. This is an honorable life instituted by God in a time of man's innocency and signifying unto us the mystical union which exists between Christ and his church. This holy estate Christ adorned and beautified with his presence at the first miracle at the wedding, wrought at the wedding in Cana of Galilee. That's our passage today, in case y'all didn't know. It is commended by St. Paul as honorable among all men, and therefore is not to be entered into lightly or unadvisedly, but reverently, discreetly, and with the fear of God. One more little paragraph. Maverick, you're doing great. To you who are guests of this couple today, y'all didn't know we were doing this, welcome. They're already married, by the way. This is just an example. I welcome you on their behalf. They have invited you to be a part of this occasion because of the meaningful place you hold in their hearts, their memories, and their lives. I challenge you who are married to use these moments to renew your personal vows, to remember the commitments you made to your spouse. To all of you, we ask you to use this ceremony to commit yourselves to support and uphold this couple. Much in our world will bring pressure against their home. We invite you to be a supportive force. Now, why do we talk like that? And why would I bring Tyler and Chelsea up here and make this awkward? All right? Because what is happening when we do this and what happened 7 years ago on a Thursday night is we created something new. God created something new. God created a home. And in God creating a home, God created some incredible things. God created some tears. God created some laughter. And over these past 7 years, there have been some tears. Over the past 7 years, there's been a lot of laughter. Over the past 7 years, there's been a little boy. And a home was created. A life was created. A new life and a new home was created. He's doing very good, isn't he? So, that's why, okay, I'll keep talking about it. I'll let y'all go. Was that awkward enough? All right. I feel weird because I can't see half the... Does it feel real? All right. But the reason we have this language when we talk about a wedding, weddings are something that is a normal part of our lives. But it's also a different part of our lives. It's not something that we do every day. But a wedding is a reminder to us. A reminder that God is creating something new in our midst. God is creating a home. God is creating beauty. That sometimes God creates a home and there are tears, but there is laughter, there is love, and there is life, and there is new life that comes from that home. And so this morning, as we read this passage, what I hope that we hear that Jesus chose, I believe, to perform his first miracle at a wedding. Why? Because weddings are normal. Weddings are a part of life. But also because weddings are a symbol to us that God is doing something. That God is creating a home. That God is creating something new. That God is creating a new reality. A new reality of what life is. Those of us that are married, we know that life was forever changed when we took those vows. Tyler and Chelsea's life were forever changed on that Thursday night when they took those vows, and they have walked that together. And we all do that as married people. That God is a God who creates new things, but God is also a God who creates a new reality. So this is where Christ chose to do his first miracle. So verse 2. We're going to go faster through the rest of these verses. We won't take that long. All right, verse 2. And Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding as well. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother told him, they don't have any wine. What has this concern of yours to do with me, woman? Jesus asked. My hour has not yet come. Do whatever he tells you, his mother told the servants. Now 6 stone jars had been there for Jewish purification. Each contained 20 or 30 gallons. Fill the jars with water, Jesus told them. So they filled them to the brim. Then he said to them, now draw some out and take it to the head waiter. And they did. When the head waiter tasted the water, after it had become wine, he did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. He called the groom and told him, everyone sets out the fine wine first, and then after people are drunk, the inferior. But you have kept the fine wine until now. Jesus did this the first of his signs. And that little word first in Greek is really the beginning. It's the same word used in chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, same word. Jesus did this, the beginning of his signs, in Cana of Galilee. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum together with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples, and they stayed there only a few days. So there's two kind of primary things that I want you to see in this. The first big thing is a question that I walk away from this passage with. And I think really kind of for me, the biggest question of this passage. And the question is, why did the servants need to fill the jars? I believe, and I think most of you would believe with me, that if there was those jars sitting there that day, that Jesus could have just said to the head waiter or to the servants, go over there, draw the liquid out and take it to the head waiter, and they could have said, sir, I don't know if you know this, but they're empty, and he could say, check again, and they would be full. I believe that could have happened. I believe God very well could have easily done that, just as easily as turning the water into wine. But that's not the story that we hear, and that's not what happened that day. What happened that day was that they were called to be a part of the miracle. And so the question to me is why did the servants need to participate in this miracle? And actually, this question, we could go back even a few weeks in our series as we went through the Old Testament. Remember back in Ezekiel chapter 37? God made a statement to Ezekiel. He said to Ezekiel, prophesy over these bones. And he did. And the bones stood up, the bones began to have sinews, the bones had flesh, and eventually the bones had breath. But it was all at Ezekiel's word from God, but Ezekiel's word. Could God not have just said that day, hey, Ezekiel, watch this. This is going to be a cool trick? Yes. Pastor James last week preached on the calling of the first disciples. Could Jesus not have had a ministry without any disciples? Yes. So why? Why were the servants called to participate in the miracle? And I think kind of a big question for us is, why are we called to participate in the miracle? Why are we called to participate in the ministry of our Lord? Remember what I read earlier to you. Remember the quote back at the beginning of this sermon that I used from last week, or from 2 weeks ago, to be a disciple is to be a child of God. And children of God are spirit-immersed participants in Jesus' spirit-immersed mission. Children of God are spirit-immersed participants. We're participants. Now, let's look at, I think I've got a slide with verses 43 and 50 in it. Back at last week, look at how this is said. The next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. He found Philip and told him, follow me. Then we skip down just 7 verses later. Jesus responded to him, do you believe that because I told you I saw you under a fig tree, you will see greater things than this? What do these 2 verses have to do together? One is a calling to be a disciple, and the other is a promise to the disciples. You will see greater things than this. Let me kind of pull these 2 verses together with an illustration. When I was a kid, I've debated saying her name, but she has passed away. My mom's principal for most of my childhood was a woman named Miss Jensen. Miss Jensen, I have stories about Miss Jensen. Most of them aren't very good stories. But Miss Jensen was her principal for a long time, and Miss Jensen did not like to be snuck up on. So one year, Miss Jensen had an idea. It was Christmas, and she thought, I'm going to buy all the teachers in the building a bell to wear around their neck, and then I will hear them coming. And so my mom went a couple days because Miss Jensen told all the teachers, at all times, if you are in this building, you have to wear this bell. And it didn't bug my mom so much that she was told that she had to do it, but all day, teaching, going to lunch, taking the kids somewhere, it was this bell would ring, and she said that she felt like her and all the teachers in the building were cattle as they walked around with a bell around their neck. And so one night we're at dinner, and my mom's complaining to us about this, and in the middle of dinner, my dad just gets up and goes to the garage, and then he comes back, and he said, give me the bell. And my mom takes it off, and she hands it to my dad, and my dad gets out the pair of needle-nose pliers he just got from the garage, and he sticks them in that bell, and he pries open that little bell, about the size of a quarter, pries open that bell, shakes out the little ball bearing, takes his thumb and closes that bell up and gives it back to my mom. Guess what? My mom wore the bell every year after that. And it was kind of a joke between her and my dad. Yeah, you can tell me what to do, but I don't really have to do it. And so she wore that bell that made no noise. And I have a feeling, I didn't ask her because I was still a kid at the time, but I have a feeling that there were other teachers with needle-nose pliers in that building who followed my mother's lead. But that little ball in that bell was the resonator. It's what made that bell make noise. It's what made that bell ring. And when we have a bell, we have to have something in it that makes it ring. This bell, my sister gave us a few years ago for Christmas. It's kind of loud, but it's very, very cow-like, isn't it? What's making that noise? It's the resonator. If I hold, what's making that noise? No, it's the resonator. It's the thing that makes the noise. It's the thing that makes the bell come alive. If I was to remove the resonator like my dad did for my mom that day, this bell would make no noise. My question from this passage is this: have we, as the people of God, have we lost our resonance? Have we lost the thing that makes us ring? Jesus says to his disciples, follow me, because you're going to see things greater than anything you could imagine. And then Jesus does something and invites them into his ministry, to participate in his ministry. But what made it work, what made it alive, was that there's something inside making it ring. That there was something inside that made it come alive. And my fear as we read this story is that we have lost what is inside that has made us come alive. That we're the shell of a bell worn around my mother's neck that made no sound. To be a disciple is to be the child of God. And children of God are spirit-immersed participants, ringing out a spirit-immersed mission. In chapter 1, we hear the words, follow me, and to be a disciple is not just about feelings or affection. It is to follow Jesus' call out into the world, to resonate, to ring. So here's my challenge to you this morning. Discipleship is the intersection with resonance, that reverberating of the Spirit inside of us. Discipleship is that resonance, the reverberating of the Spirit inside the Christian, that we can encounter the living God. That we are called to participate in what God is doing. This story, Jesus doesn't just create the miracle, he invites us to participate. And discipleship happens when obedience meets that resonance. That the servants had to participate, the servants had to be a part. It is a reminder to all of us that we have the permission to do the small acts. The small acts were the filling of the jar. The miracle is what God did with the small acts. Another thing for us to remember is that the bell doesn't create a sound on its own. It resonates when it's struck. Discipleship is learning to live in such a way that when the Spirit moves, our lives ring. My question for you this morning is that we pay attention. That we pay attention that when something rings true this week, that there's going to be a time when the Spirit stirs the compassion in your heart, the conviction in your heart, the courage in your heart. We don't ignore it. But we do what the servants did that day, and we respond. We respond sometimes in ways that we don't even know why we're doing what we're doing, because we all know those servants that day said, "This doesn't make any sense." But they responded. They listened. They did what God called them to do. Our question isn't, what big thing should I do for God? Our question is, where is the Spirit already stirring in me? Where is the Spirit already working in me so that I can respond? Or have we lost our resonance? Have we lost the ability to ring? Have we lost the thing in us that stirs us? Don't miss the order of this story. The servants fill, Jesus transforms. Someone else tastes. What I love about this story is Jesus never once gets the credit for the story, or gets the credit for the miracle. It's not about credit. It's about a people who are called to fill. People who are called to allow Jesus to transform. People who are allowing God to work. Sometimes we see the fruit of it, sometimes we don't, but we remember that there is a God who is ringing and a Spirit ringing inside of us. We don't control the outcome. We don't get to manage the miracles in our lives. We get to participate. And then we let God do what only God can do. Transform. Perform the miracle. We all know Jesus could have filled the jars himself that day. But he chose not to. He invited servants in to do the work of God. And he still does. Discipleship is where the obedience to God and the resonance of the Holy Spirit meet. And when those two things meet, we get to experience the living God. The sound that lingers in our lives is the sound that reminds us, do we still have the resonance in our lives? Do we still have the Holy Spirit ringing in our lives, reminding us that he's creating something new? That he's creating a whole new reality at the wedding? To be reminded of a God who is working in powerful ways, and we get to be a part. Today, as we close, that is my final challenge. To be reminded that Jesus chose not to fill the jars that day, but he's invited us into a life of participation. Discipleship. Discipleship is a reminder to us that we are called to follow. We are called to be obedient. But it's not us. It's the Spirit ringing in us. It's the God that we serve who does the miracle. As we close today, we will close as we normally do. John will come and lead us in a song. Pastor James will be right down at this altar if you would like a pastor to pray with. I'll be right down at this altar if you would like to be anointed for healing. whatever that might be, spiritual, emotional, physical, I would love the opportunity to pray with you. But on this second Sunday of the year, maybe we just need to find a place to ask the question. Do we still have the Spirit ringing inside of us? Have we lost that? And today say, Lord, fill me. Give me the ability to ring out your life in this world. We cannot do the miracle on our own. We can't transform anyone on our own. It is the work of God, but we get to participate. Let us stand today as we sing.